Evening. Welcome to Kiki's Chat Show. This is Kiki's. I'm about to have this Kiki's Radio. So, Kiki's Chat Show, Kiki's Radio, and we are streaming directly into Facebook and onto YouTube. So you can pick it up anyway. If you want to go on YouTube, it's Kiki Blue Chat. Kiki Blue Chat, and you can pick me up there, or you can pick me up on Facebook, or you can get the recording after. Well, today is Wednesday, the 19th of August, the year of our merciful Lord, 2020. Now, I am going to be saying the year of our Lord because this has been a testing year, and we're all under extreme stress. So, and the stress is manifesting itself in different ways. But today, before I even get into our topic and before I even introduce my guest, I want to share something with you. And it is the beauty of life does not depend on how happy you are, but how happy others can be because of you. The beauty of life depends on how happy others can be because of you. And that is something which, there are different ways of the way that people express this and say it, but this simple way, without a story, without anything, really spoke to me. If you go somewhere, or if you are somewhere and somebody comes and they make you happy and they're kind and they're funny, you let your guard down and you are funny with them and you laugh with them and you have a good time. And then there are people who, the minute they are coming to your space, you are on guard and you're careful. And those are the negative people. Now, my guest today is the one who makes me happy and giggle. Already we've laughed when I really should be serious because I haven't even started the show yet. And we've giggled already, and that's naughty. Before I introduce her, I have something else I want to say, and that is tomorrow here in the UK is another testing Thursday. And it's an exams results day. So in view of the shocking outcome that happened last week, Thursday, where A-level results were marked down and everyone seemed to get a lesser mark than they expected and therefore couldn't get into the universities of their choice, this is going to be another testing day because we're not sure how these marks are going to be marked. And we're not sure what the results are going to be, but we hope that all people who have sat their GCSEs are going to pass. Those who've worked hard are going to get good results, and we will have less angst and anguish than what we had last week. I wish you all well, parents and children together. I wish you well. Now, the other thing that I want to do is introduce my guest. My guest is a sassy, spirited, and motivational soul. She is a multi-award-winning brand called Lily Mensah. She is an internationally savvy personal brand connoisseur with a flair for creating professional and endearing presence online, in person, and on paper. So really, she has covered all bases. Her consulting and speaking practice spans over 20 years across the USA, Africa, and Europe. She's been everywhere as well, well-traveled. In her toolbox, Lily presents a collection of options for a 360-degree view of brand you. So that means she brands you. If you want her to brand you, she can tell you all the positive things about you, and she can make you feel like a queen. You see me? I feel like a queen. There, that these are designed to increase visibility for personal and professional growth. So she can tell you what your strengths are when you tell her what you've done. Because sometimes we like to dump down the things that we've done. Sometimes, especially if you're African, you're kind of like, you can't blow your trumpet, as we were told. That's all rubbish. If you can do something, Lily will find it and she will tell you that, didn't you do this last week? Well, put it down. And that's what she does to me. So, sometimes you do things and you forget. She said, last year, didn't you do this, that, and the other? Put it down, write it down. So that's what Lily does. Lily is one of the world's people who can show you your own gift that God gave you. And that is a powerful friend, sister, someone to know, someone to help you in your life as you go along. We all need someone like Lily. Anyway, Lily is an author of the personal branding book called Work Your Quirks. I've spoken a lot about Work Your Quirks in the past. I talk about it even in some of my interviews. And I say, if you haven't seen that book, go and buy it, because it helps you in all sorts of different ways, even in menopause. Trust me. Having a baby, finding a belt, a scarf, doing, getting yourself. Because of Lily, I put my earrings on. So you can see that my quirk is being worked at the moment. Lily has 2 sons and 1 daughter and 4 struggling grandsons. So this is not an easy person, but there you go. Welcome to the show, Lily.
Thank you so much, Candy. As you were talking about me, I thought, who is this person? I'm all shy.
Well, I did what you did to me.
Yes, I know. You said something about people who surrounding ourselves with people who bring you joy. And the one thing that you said, that there's certain people who stand around you and you're on your guard. I'll tell you what I call them. They're called energy vampires. They suck the life out of you. So if you find them, just take off your slingbacks and run off. So thank you again. Take off your slingbacks and run off, because they will suck the energy out of you. And nobody really wants that. So, but thank you very much. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, thank you. I'm so excited to be chatting with you as well. I think, as they say, women, we really have got to the point we are at realization stage. And it is important and vital that everyone help a sister put up her crown, or fix your sister's crown, that sort of thing. And you do it to me all the time. And I'm doing it for you today on my show. Yes, because of you. I combed my hair and styled it. I've got my earrings on. I've got my lipstick on.
The red lipstick.
Yeah. How have you been, Lily?
As you said, it's been a year nobody will forget in a hurry. If you'd said to me, I think this time last year, I was in the middle of recording the audio book. We were all excited, and I was stumbling over my words and all that. And I was very excited about that. And then 2020 came, and this has happened. And it hasn't been easy. And I know there are lots of people who will agree with me that there were days that getting out of bed, taking the bed covers off and actually stepping down is a struggle, because at the beginning I got to the point that I was waking up late so my days will not be long. So because yes, normally I'm up around 6, 7, because I had a whole day and I'll be doing things in the evening. But because lockdown came, you could only go out once, and you know how I like to move. I like to walk. I like to run. I like to go here. I like to go there. And I found myself hemmed in a very unusual way. And I'm sure I'm not the only person who struggled with that. And as a result, I went down and felt really, really low. In the beginning, I was very excited, this sort of working from home and not having to go on the train it sounded sexy. Everybody was like, yeah, we love it. A month later, when the thing locked, when they say lockdown was here.
Was practically locking. You were
locked. It's like, okay, maybe I'm going to say something when I think it can be something like, I don't know about you, but when we were growing up, if they say you've locked, it means that you've had unprotected sex and you could be pregnant. and and it's that sort of fear that gripped you, and the press did not help. We were all terrified of each other. We didn't want to go out. You went to the shops and you were covered in sanitizers. I mean, I'm still careful, but I think we were terrified and we didn't know what to do. We didn't know what was possible. Family, friends were ill and all of that. But the long and short of it is that I've had very good days and I've had very low days. And the low days are the times where you pick up the phone or somebody calls you and has a chat with you. It's that conversation with others, seeing how they are, and then you can have a giggle. Or just walking in the park and just sitting down without organizing, without having an aim, but just walking. Because walking for me, movement for me, is meditation. Some people say stay still, put your feet on the ground, listen to the trees or whatever, and listen to the moment. Movement for me is my way of, mindfulness. So that's how I have been. I've learned a lot about myself and learned a lot about things that I had forgotten about. When everybody was hoarding toilet paper, going long queues at the shops, and you're thinking, how am I going to feed the kids that had come home from school holidays and were eating you out of house and home? How do you do that? I didn't realize that eggs could last so long, because I was saying you can't have so many eggs in a day. You can only have that many. And going back to boarding school days where you had to ration your food. You can't take your chop box. For those of you who went to boarding school with us, you can't. Your parents will give you your chop box to last you half a term. You can't eat it all in week one, and then you're hanging around your friends and asking them for some of their gari or some of their corned beef or some of their pepper. You have to ration it. So I had to go back to my school days and learn how to ration food at home. Can you imagine? And it wasn't because we didn't have money to spend. The money was there, but you couldn't get the toilet paper, you couldn't get the rice, you couldn't get the flour. So it was those things.
Did you have, one of the things that concerned me earlier on was the way that people were rushing to buy the toilet paper, as you said, and all of that. And then also, there was no flour. So whilst people were talking about, we're going to be home and we're going to be baking and we're going to be doing X, Y, and Z, I wasn't baking. I had no flour.
Yeah, there was nothing to bake with.
Yeah, and you can't get baking powder as well, or yeast. I could not get yeast. I wanted to make donuts, and I couldn't get yeast. So one of the things which I found was that saved me, because if I could have got the yeast on the day, when I wanted it, and if I had the flour when I wanted it, I would bake and I would eat, and it would have been interesting.
People were posting all sort of recipes. If you listen to the radio, I baked this. And I was like, where did they find the ingredients? The first month was tough.
Last week on Monday, last week Monday at 6 o'clock, because I work during the day, and so around 5:36 we drove down to Costco,
Mm-hmm.
and the queue in Costco nearly, I was shocked. I thought, why? What's happening again? Is something happening that I don't know what's going on? Or, I was very shocked about it. And I don't know, the thing of not knowing, and the thing of guessing, and the thing of being greedy and buying everything that you see in the shop so that other people can't get it, is also worrying to me.
I think that the press have started again with, we're going to have another lockdown, we're going to have a second wave. Whether it's true or not, we're human, and as human, we have to protect ourselves. We have to make sure that we have food. We have to. Some of us don't need food right now. We need to go on diets. But will we listen to ourselves? No, but we have to have food in the house just in case. And there's very little. You cannot talk to people. You cannot speak to people and get them to be rational about these things when they have that deep fear of starvation or potential starvation. So it's the psyche.
But that is a natural. No, but
Yes.
that is natural though, because I don't want not to have food for my children. I want that every day my children are fed, and it's a natural thing, especially when you have them in the house. So that is also another concern, and you don't know what's coming around the corner because we weren't told this properly, and so you're mistrusting of, So what do you do then? You behave like the people who go into the shops and buy everything.
Well, I mean, personally, what I've done in the last couple of weeks is I've managed to get myself Tesco deliveries, and I'd sort of buy for every 2 weeks rather than go to the shops every week. And then I just pick few things, like if I need flowers and stuff like that. But generally, I've managed to get my Tesco delivery slots back.
Okay.
That helped.
So whilst all this is going on, have you been able to reflect on your life now? Because a lot of people are afraid, they're scared, they're not sure what's going on in the future. And I'm thinking of, if people are watching, because quite a few people are watching now, and are you just, you're fine, everything is fine, and you're just getting on with life? Or you're beginning to worry that what is the future hold? Are you one of those?
It would be unnatural for me to say I'm not worried at all. We all have to worry as to what tomorrow will bring. But it shouldn't take up all of our thinking time. Because half the time there's very little we can do about the things that we are worrying about. So if that thing hits your door today, yes, by all means, worry about it. But if you can do something about it, I'm getting a lot of people asking me to help them because they are afraid that they will lose their jobs. So the question is, do you start looking for a new job now? That you can do something about that. Or do you decide that you're going to sit tight and wait for your redundancy money and start a business? So those are the two types of conversations that I'm having with people. So either you rewrite your CV, update your LinkedIn profile, or decide I'm going to run my own business if I get a big pot of money. If so, start researching the things that will help you start your business. What is the business idea? Is somebody doing it already? If they're doing it, how well are they doing? What can you do in terms of how you're going to compete with those people, and so on? And so start doing your research as to the things that you want to do.
So rewrite your CV.
Absolutely.
Get onto the internet. Join LinkedIn.
Absolutely. Prepare for the eventualities. Prepare for the eventualities that will come. If you've been furloughed, the likelihood is that your full-time job may not actually be there. So you're one of the first people that are likely to go if the company goes bust.
But if your company goes bust, it's not just your company. This is happening to a lot of other people. Yeah. For example, if you're a teacher, and the schools, I don't know, less people are going to school and everyone's on the internet, and one person can tell they need less teachers. This is just an example. What do you then do? Because it's nationwide. It's not just your little company. It's happening everywhere.
But teachers, people will always need teachers, just like doctors, just like nurses. So if you're, and this is just off the top of my head, if your school is closing down because everything is going online, what is to stop you looking at other online avenues where you can also do your craft online? I think a lot of teachers, or certainly universities, were very, very resistant about doing online teaching. Within weeks or days, they shut down universities, and the children came home, and they had to immediately adopt the online world.
Okay, I've got a university lecturer here, so I don't know. We'll ask her this question when she comes on.
Okay.
But the other thing is, I think that from what you're saying, basically, apart from getting your LinkedIn, your CV and all of that, is if there are opportunities for courses online, people should take them.
Absolutely. There are lots of free courses, or at least an introduction. Is it Udemy or Udemy? I don't know how they, Udemy. They do lots of introductory courses that you can take to either find a new path. So you can decide that you're not going to be doing accounting anymore, but you want to do maybe internet, whatever, some other internet thing that is a knowledge-based activity. You can do a taster on there. Obviously,
I realize that people are knitting. People are knitting now, so you can learn how to knit. And that is what you see. One of the problems that people have is that life was so fast-paced that you don't have time to do anything. For example, me, I go to work, I come back, I rush, I go to the radio station, I wake up early morning some days, 2 days in a week, I'm at the TV station. Early in the morning, I leave my house around 4:35 for a 6 o'clock show. And then, so early morning. So every time I am at home, I am sleeping. I'm eating or sleeping. I never, and I have done that for so many years that it took me a while to calm down, because, it took me a while to balance and realize I'm actually at home all day. I'm not going anywhere. There is no TV. There is no, that sort of thing. And it took me a while. In fact, I then, because I didn't even, as you said, I didn't have enough motivation to even do my show at home, when I could easily do my show at home, when there were times when I would have happily done my show at home in the busy times. Now here I am. Somebody came, they put the system on my my computer and everything, and I could connect to the radio station, blah blah. I didn't do it. I have motivation. So it took me a while to start again and to start to realize that, look, this is your life, and you really can now plan your life, and you can do certain things in your own time.
Yes.
And I'm actually quite happy to be doing this.
Yeah, it did. I think once we had we had to go through a period of adjustment.
Yeah.
Again, as human beings, the last time I did psychology was several decades ago. But as human beings, we're used to doing said. We're creatures of habit.
Yeah.
They get up, rat race, we're going, we're busy, we're doing the, you call me, sometimes you're on the bus, you call me, you say, hey Lily, where are you? I say, hey, I'm somewhere in London, and they say, but it's only 7 o'clock in the morning. And I say, yes, I like to be up and about, and I like to start early. One was so used to that when it came to when it came to a resounding halt, we just stopped. It's like a screech. You're driving very fast, and the car screeches and comes to a halt. Everybody jolts, and you're suddenly wondering what has gone on. Is anybody hurt? You stop for a while before you open your eyes. And I think that was the period that we all went through. And then we're slowly coming out. The death numbers are going down. You're not hearing of loved ones in hospital or even dying. The funerals have stopped. All the sadness is limited. Our friends in hospital on life support, and all those horrible things that came into our lives unexpectedly have suddenly either stopped or ebbed a little bit, and that makes us feel that there's hope. And if you have hope as a community, you can do so much more. But where there's no hope, it is very difficult to put one foot in front of the other to even go and clean your teeth or comb your hair, as you say.
The other thing that I wanted to ask you was, what I needed to, how do you see going back to work? Because, we've been in for 5 months now, and we are in the house, or we're cooped up because we're afraid of that invisible thing that's killing people that we don't know anything about. If they suddenly say, fine, everyone start coming into work just like that, how would you enter it with trepidation, or you're dying to go to? Are you one of those who is, I'm tired, I can't stay at home anymore, I want to go?
No. Health, I'm not going. Do you know why? I'm of an age where I could be at risk, or I'm at risk. And I don't have, I have the space to sit at home and work from home. But if I'm forced to go back onto the trains and stuff like that, my health is the most important thing to me. My health, my mental health, my physical health, all of that is more important. And without that, I cannot earn money. So if my health is at risk, then I will not just jeopardize my future income by just going in there and being unhealthy 2 weeks later. So I won't do it if I'm forced to. But hopefully, I don't think I can be forced to doing that. But not everybody is in that position of having a choice, unfortunately.
There is this thing. I'm going to call people to come in when we get to a certain point, because I can see that some people don't mind coming onto the show. So I'm excited about that, because this is the first time I'm doing that. So I don't know. I hope I don't have technical issues. However, okay. There is this thing that's being said on the news, and I don't know how you're viewing it. And I know you're not a scientist or anything, but just us talking and, other people sharing in their ideas. What is when they keep saying Black people are more at risk to get the disease and die from the disease, how do you view this in terms of the ones who are forced to go to work, for example? How does this pan out for them? How do we look at this and say that if you can't go to work, you really have to say you can't? Or what?
Everybody's situation is different. If you have an employer that makes sure that your health and safety is number one, and you can trust the employer, then unfortunately you don't have a choice. You have to go. But you have to protect yourself. You have to protect yourself. So if they say where you're, and the majority, like bus drivers, the key workers, tend to be from minority backgrounds, and we are more exposed to more people coming into our terrain, into our lives, because if you get onto the bus, but I think buses now have a shield. I haven't been on public transport since 13th of March. Yes. No. But somebody says that if you overprotect yourself, you're one of the first people that will catch it, because
when you go out, eventually.
Yeah.
So how do you have a balance? Because you're in the house, you don't go out because you've been asked not to go out. Then they say you can go out for an hour, but your knee hurts. And then, so you don't go out. And they say if you do go out, you have to go to work. You go to work, and then you catch it.
That's the thing. I think central London is closed pretty much. I have to go up into town on Friday, and I'll see for myself. But what I've heard is that central London is empty, and many corporate organizations are deciding to. I mean, sometimes you see, the funny thing is the key workers are from the minority, from the minority backgrounds. We have to go and face the music. The middle class people are sitting on Zoom calls, protected from all of this, and they'll still earn their big salaries and still be protected. Meanwhile, your brother, your uncle will have to go and drive a bus to take everybody out and catch it. A lot of people are sitting at home doing their Zoom calls, and they're protected, and there's an imbalance there. The stress also brings on other illnesses. I'm not saying, and that all those things, BP, all those illnesses, their diabetes.
I was watching the telly the other day. This is for another discussion, but I just thought I'd share this with you. I was watching the telly the other day, and it was talking about how Black people have blood pressure. But truthfully, it's not just Black people. A lot of people have blood pressure as they grow older. But I think it's because of all the things that is put in the food. We're not looked after properly. You go and buy the food. The problem is the people on the lower levels as well. What they can afford is what is tampered with. And then, so it's a vicious cycle. They can't afford all the rich foods that the rich people can afford. They have basic, amenities. And all of these things are what makes people ill. And we don't seem to be addressing it. It's like the elephant in the room.
I also saw a video the other day of somebody talking about obesity and how the government is saying that you need to bring your, BMI down. You need to do this to protect you. And the thing is, you can't just exercise and expect to lose weight. There are other things that cause people to put on weight and other things that cause people to be thin. It is sometimes a mental disorder. Eating can be a mental disorder. And if you can't just, being anorexic, it's a mental disorder, and it's treated like that. Being obese and morbidly obese is also a mental illness that needs to be treated as such. It has to start from up here before you can deal with all. And everywhere you look, there are fast food places. Food is one of the biggest addictions that we don't really talk about a lot, because it's not like alcohol or drug. In fact, you don't get drugs easily, so the addiction can be seen as different. But food addiction, you have to eat. If you have a food addiction, how do you manage it?
When you say food addiction, I understand people who eat like food, because sometimes life is so hard on you. Sometimes you're lonely. Sometimes you like food, like me. Yeah, I'm not lonely, but I just like the food. Sometimes for different reasons, we compensate little, things with food. And if it's good quality food, you're lucky. But someone just mentioned that a lot of key workers are the worst paid in our societies, up and down the world, all over the world. And actually, they are key workers. For example, nurses save lives. Nurses save lives. Now, the doctor will come, he prescribes and does, but the nurse is the one who wipes the person down, feeds the person, administers the medicine and all of that. And yet they are paid very little money. And you ask yourself, now the people who clean the hospitals, the toilets, all of these things are providing a very vital service that is so necessary to human life. And yet they are the most disregarded in society.
So, but I think we've talked about race. We also have to include class in that. So there's race, there's class. Class comes into that mix. So the doctor, the nurse, and the cleaner, and you look at all those different levels as to how they're paid. Of course, the doctor will probably go to school for university 7 years or something like that. The nurse does 3 years, but the nurse comes into the ward and finishes their jobs there. So does the doctor. But because of how society is structured, the doctor has more. It's a societal thing. It's a structure.
It is a societal thing. Somebody's just saying, groups are disproportionately represented in essential work settings such as healthcare, farms, factories, grocery stores, public transport. And so, they are at a greater chance of being exposed to the virus due to so many factors. And yet they are the ones who are not being looked after properly. And some of them are losing their jobs anyway.
Yeah.
And, you wonder what society is going to become if this is the situation that we're under now. We have become very, very sanitized to compassion and the feeling of, because everyone is thinking about themselves and everyone is on a speed dial. Everyone is busy, kind of. And that kind of busy is what's going to break the world. It's not Satan or anything. It's just we ourselves are going to kill ourselves, I think.
And I think it's because that sort of compassion for other human beings is seriously being eroded in our own communities. Because once upon a time, if you would go back maybe even 2 or 3 generations, everybody lived in the same compound. But now you have the 2.4 children. the family unit is much smaller. That's why if this pandemic had happened perhaps so many generations ago, the grandma would have looked after the kids. There would have been support. But now the children can't go to nursery, so mom has to do work and homeschooling. If I had to homeschool during this pandemic, I think I would struggle because I don't know my maths. I barely passed my GCSE maths. I sort of scraped through because I think there was something like graphs or something, and it was like my lucky number. I didn't like maths at school. English was my thing, and so if a child was to come home and ask me to help them with their maths homework, I would freak out. So I don't know how the parents have done it, because I bet it's been really, really hard.
It has been hard. I think, we've covered a lot of the COVID-y things. The question I want to ask you is there another book on the horizon? Are you sitting there writing a book then?
There's several.
Oh, wow.
I could, as usual, everybody has 10 million books in their heads. It's about deciding which one and sitting down and writing it. Because we've had so many experiences. Certainly in the last 2 months, the Black Lives Matter movement, it's sort of pushing me towards something. I'm not sure how I'm going to do it, but there's a possibility of something there. I've talked about the menopause, and there's also a possibility of something there as well. So those two things that affect me personally, I can only write about things that I know.
Of course, yeah.
So Black Lives Matter or the menopause. So those are the sort of things that I'm sort of toying, and I have to decide which one and how, and whether it's going to be a fun one or a very serious subject. Because Work Your Quirks was a fun book to write, because it was playful. Quirky clear. But I don't know. There's probably one or two books, and then maybe I might do my own autobiography.
Oh,
what
wow!
Do you think? You have to be careful. The secrets you tell me might come into my book. No, I wouldn't do that.
Okay. Now, coming to autobiography is a good idea. Now, using that word, now, if you had to go back now from what you know now with autobiography and all of that, if you are able to go back to your 20-year-old self, or 21, or 21-year-old self, what would you be able to tell your 21-year-old self or 20-year-old self? Give me 3 things.
3 things.
Okay, give me one. And listeners,
and I'll expand on maybe 1 or 2. You're beautiful.
You say that to yourself.
Beautiful, made in the image of God.
Okay.
2 is there is no competition except with yourself. And the final one, no competition except with yourself. The only competition is with yourself. Because everybody's different and everybody's journey is different. And the biggest one for me would be infidelity. It's never a reason by itself to leave a marriage.
Why do you say that?
And for several reasons. Human beings are not generally made, this sort of one man, one woman thing. It's not natural. We've learned to live like that, but there will always be people who will go out and do that. It's often men. And more recently, my good sister and I were talking about a young lady who wanted to leave her husband because of whatever he's done. And she said to me that if you leave your husband now, you're only going to join the line somewhere else. You're going to go to the back of somebody's line. So if it's him stepping out, that in itself is never a reason to leave a marriage. And that's what I would tell my daughter and tell my younger 20-year-old. And at 20 years old, I was carrying a 2-year-old already. So I had been through the mill and I'd seen things that I can't tell you now because of the memory of the beautiful man that I was with at the time.
I don't know if other women would agree with you. I mean, for some would.
That's what I'd say to myself, and that's up to everybody to decide for themselves.
So you would say to yourself, infidelity is not a reason for divorce or leaving your partner. You have to work on it. You have to
work on it. If he beats you, you step out immediately. Yeah? If he beats you, you step out. You're not his property.
Okay. All right, people. I want to say thank you to you. Don't leave, though. Don't stay. But I'm saying thank you now, and I'm going to get someone else on who is here, and she's going to join us to talk about what she would say to her 20-year-old self and add something more to the discussion. Hello, Dr. Chuma on. Can you hear us?
I can't hear.
I can hear you now.
Kiki.
You can hear us now.
Can I be heard? Because I can't hear. Hold on.
You can be heard. You can be heard. Do you want to tell us what you would say to your 20-year-old self or 21-year-old self?
We can't hear you.
So you can't hear me?
I can hear you.
I can hear you.
Yes, awesome. Can I give a little bit of introduction first? Because I would tell my 20-year-old self 4 things, but I first wanted to mention that one of the, in COVID-19, we realized what luxuries are, right? Luxuries are being with you guys. Luxuries are being with the people you love. Luxuries are breathing oxygen, going for walks in nature. So one of the luxuries I had growing up, which I knew at the time, was I had a fantastic mother. And I had a fantastic modeling from dad and my uncles. So what happened was by the time I was 20 in university, I already had, from my mother's example and teaching us as a teacher, and my dad and uncles from talking to us, because for example, Kofi Annan was one of my uncles, as a quick example. I was already on the path of flowing in my journey of self-actualization. So that's why I had to say that first, because teaching psychology and law, many human beings don't have time to be on a path of self-actualization. They're in survival mode. And the human beings who maybe seem to be privileged, they don't have the luxuries of support because they are not in that paradigm. They're in a parallel universe, which is another story, Kiki. So in saying that, therefore, I knew at the time at age 20 that I was on the right path.
Okay.
And when I look back, I see I was 100% on the right path. And I'm one of those who lives, and I teach this in my classes, that teaches live a day at a time, because 5 minutes ago, Kiki is gone. We don't have it anymore. It's gone forever. And I've been living that way since my 20s. Tomorrow, I don't think about it. And so my husband gets frustrated with me, say, because there's a bill that he thinks we need the money to pay and I shouldn't go buy shoes or earrings, right? And I start laughing and giggling because what I've known since then, because of mom, my dad and uncles, is tomorrow's not here yet. And if you're on the right path, if you're flowing, giggling like we do, laughing like we do, and doing your right path, the bill 100% is going to be paid. And that's how my life has been. But that's a parallel universe to what we're living on earth. So the 4 things I would tell my 20-year-old self in terms of that is you're on the right path. However, please put more time into your artistic side of dancing, actual dancing, hip hop, and so on. And please put more time into your triathlon. Don't keep it until the babies are older. Do your triathlete stuff now, even if you're the first lady to do it.
You're talking about athletics, running, jumping.
Triathlon is 3 things. It's the swim, then the bike, and then the jog. I would tell myself to really be cognizant, like Lily was saying at first, cognizant of those energy vampires, which, by the way, because of mom and dad, I didn't have them in my life. I was already aware to flow on because I was so busy. Flow on, love them, but flow on. So I've never had them in my universe. So, but the 4th thing, Kiki, is I would tell myself that what you have always said, know your army. Know your army. And I got my army. I've worked hard at it for a decade plus, but I got my army. I've had it for about 10 years. So that's what I tell my 20-year-old self. But the flow was good. It was a luxury, thanks to legacy of my fabulous mother. Absolutely fabulous. And then my modeling of my dad and uncles. That's it.
Okay, now the question is, Lily said that one of her things she would tell her 20-year-old is not to, infidelity is not a deal breaker. You have to work at it, you have to forgive, and you have to make that relationship work. But someone put a question saying, isn't infidelity him messing you up mentally?
Okay, so what I can share, Kiki, on that real quick, because I know we're running out of time, is 2 things: my faith, and then being a scientist in psychology, knowing how the brain works. I'd be irresponsible if I wouldn't first say my faith. And infidelity is the only thing that in my faith, Christ says, you don't have to forgive that. You can leave the marriage. That's number 1. You can check it out. It's in the word. So I have to say that. And the reason I think is people forget that God is the greatest scientist. We didn't make the brain. God did. We did not make the butterfly, if you're not an atheist. We did not make the caterpillar. Our creator did. And our creator has taught some of us how to do dentistry, how to do teeth, like our braces, how to do hair, how to take care of young ones, how to take care of the brain. My field is brain sciences. And I'm telling you, infidelity is the worst. It causes, but we don't have time. That's not what the show is about. It causes so much breach, which it would take about an hour for me to explain. But let's go back to Christ. So Christ just said it as it was. The only thing you can leave your partner for is infidelity. So that's all I got to say, but it takes an hour to explain.
Okay, you and I think I should invite you on so that we can talk about infidelity, because it's a topic that it is a topic that disturbs the woman's mind.
The male's mind. The male kills females for that. So there's a reason for it. And that's why those of us who are Christian on this platform, that's why it's the only one that Christ says you can leave a marriage for. The only one. But it's deep. It's much deeper. For example, the adultery is against the creator God. If you marry the wrong person, by the way, adultery, thou shalt not commit adultery. It's deep. So that's number 1. But the science of it, which God has taught us brain scientists, we're not guessing. We're not allowed to guess in science. We know what infidelity does to the brain, which God created. We didn't create the brain. And so in certain cultures, females are killed for infidelity. There's equality here with God. And in other cultures, the female is talked about the most, that, the female is sad. In my law classes, because I'm in law as well, I teach in terms of the law that people don't realize about what females can get in court for breach of contract. And it's a criminal act, because the infidelity is actually, hold your ears, folks, hold your ears. It's in British law, common law, we call it whore. And in slang, we call it hoe. And females don't realize what they can get out of what high-priced lawyers will tell you, what they can get out of infidelity in court. They don't realize what they can get out of it. It's a criminal act and a breach of contract, 2 things, civil law as well as criminal law. So I told you it's deep because it's really deep. There's much more. I didn't give it
Right,
just.
but can I counter that?
Yeah, you
I know,
can. You can.
yes, I know. I know that it's scriptural. We've talked about adultery in the Bible, the Ten Commandments, everything. We're looking at society as a whole. You have children. You have 4 or 5 children.
It's true.
And you've built your family life around this person.
It's true, and that's part of my work.
You have to be very careful about just saying leave the marriage because he stepped out with one person. How do you then support? It's about supporting the woman or the man. I'm not saying it's just men that do
That's
this.
the work I do. I actually
You have to work towards the union of the marriage and the children, because what then happens? She leaves. Somebody else takes on the children, stepdads, and all those. So we have to look at society and how leaving that marriage will affect the children, will affect the single mom home, and all those things. We can throw the Bible at problems, fine, but who picks up the mess once the marriage is broken?
Yeah. Lily,
Just because that person has stepped out and done something, half the time is just silliness and ego and nonsense. If you take that out of the way, most people can work things out. But I think society has said it's yes or no, and then that's it. And I think is where I'm coming from.
Can I just say, I think it depends, because there comes a time when infidelity is on the level, even if the man doesn't beat you physically, his infidelity, and I'm talking on the women's angle, because, if there are any men on there, they can come on. If a man is having an affair and he's invested in it, and he becomes difficult, he becomes intransigent, he doesn't care, he goes out and comes whenever he likes, he will then start to play with your mind, especially if he's the main breadwinner, all of these things. I'm not for infidelity, however, you can have your own ideas, that's fine. Mine is not even from the Bible. Mine is just seeing women get confused, maltreated, abused, undermined, and all of the things that we don't like.
Can I jump into?
And I think one of the reasons is because education and work and society is also a very major part of making the woman feel so downtrodden that she feels if a woman is educated at par with a man and he misbehaves, he can go with the 5 children. Some people will manage.
Yeah. Can I clarify?
Yeah, you can.
Okay. So I heard that I was throwing a Bible at it. Actually, I was using the science. And I said, for those of you who are Christians, because we come from a culture where Christians say certain things in religious faiths, but from science perspective, I would spend an hour. It takes in the course that we teach. We're not allowed to throw opinions in medical sciences. From science perspective, certain things occur with the organ, the brain is what I was saying. I said that would take an hour to explain. And so we don't have that time. However, infidelity is not it's not a roll in a hay. It causes a lot of different issues scientifically to the brain, to somatic, the endocrine system, lymphatic system, go on and on. But again, it takes a minimum of an hour to explain. We don't have that kind of time. So I wanted to stress so that when people leave this show, they don't think that Brenya was throwing the Bible at them, but rather that we already have studied this. Plus, the last thing I want to say is you have someone here who actually in the trenches for 30 years. I'm almost 60 years old. In the trenches for 30 years have worked. And I think, Kiki, you know this, have worked with, put in families together, people together, but also on the other side in correctional facilities where people are being put in prison for life. for killing their spouse, usually males killing females for infidelity. So I've worked in the trenches, so it doesn't come from opinion because we're not allowed to use opinion. So I just wanted to clarify that, but that would take too long to teach on the legal side as well as the psychological side, what it does to the human person and the soul. I just had to clarify. Thank you.
Your clarification is good and very welcome, because it also balances the argument that in some relationships, a man may have erred slightly, but he's good at home and he's kind and all of those things. So for some people, it was a mistake to leave him, maybe. But in most scenarios, it's very dangerous. Apart from all the illnesses that he can bring, gonorrhea, syphilis, herpes, as you know, Anna has said on there, I've put it on the screen. There are so many issues emotionally, for me, mentally and emotionally. There are people who, after, I know women, I've met people who would, as they say, would rather choose sand with their children than stay in a miserable household with a man who.
But I think we're taking it out of context. I said that alone is not the reason. What I'm saying, if there's so many, he's maltreating you, he's going out and not coming, there's so many different things. But I'm saying that alone is not a reason to leave the marriage.
That's true.
I think
there could be other things happening there already. That perhaps, and this might be the only thing that will sort of push it to the edge. If there is around all of that, if there are other things happening, then by all means. But you shouldn't just say, because of that, I'm stepping out, because you don't know what is on the other side. Work it out as best as you can. And it's all about, reparation, learning to work with what you have. And,
Okay, if there is anybody else who wants to come on, we've got 10 minutes more. So if anyone wants to come on, otherwise we will just carry on talking generally, not about infidelity though, because it's touchy something, and it needs a whole hour.
Yes.
But I think that we as women should be always careful about how women are forgiving, nurturing, and all of those positive things. And I think we should be careful how we view the general, all women, and then how we personally, privately think about issues. Tiny,
that's right. It came up for good reason about when in your 20s, what would you tell yourself in your 20s? So it's very positive that it came up, and that's part of the self-actualization. Self-actualization, as we on the three of us here know, if in your 20s you had it, which most people developmentally are not there yet for very good reasons, then you would avoid, as you said, the energy vampires. So that's what's key, and that's one of the reasons I stay in the classroom training and teaching law enforcement and military and all sorts of students and young people, because when the young people get to know self-actualization at a young age, it really does help tremendously to avoid having to stay with someone for economic factors, having to stay with someone because of religious factors or family factors. It helps them before they get in that sticky situation, like Lily had brought up. It helps them have a better flow in their journey. And this is why, Kiki, as you know, why I stay in the classroom 100% in the feedback. And students 20 years later writing me love letters that they avoided a energy vampire, as Lily had said. So yes, that's how it came up, and that's good news. So to make it more positive, and then back to Lily, is that it's really good news to have people and women who are self-actualized at a younger age because of the legacy. It's a good thing. It's joy-filled. We can laugh and giggle. It's a good thing to know people who live a day at a time. And it's a good thing to share knowledge. One thing about us women is we tend to put aside women when they're knowledgeable, when they've worked hard to be knowledgeable. It's a good thing. It's joy-filled. We dance at it. It's good. Sunny, over to you.
I mean, yes, I mean, going back to fun things. Candy and I have had so much fun and laughed, and but at the same time, there've been times when I have had very sad moments, and she just sat with me. And in fact, quite recently, my car broke down, and at first, two of my cars just went. And in the middle of all this COVID, she drove all the way and sat with me until the emergency services came and fixed stuff. So these are the people that you need in your army. Yeah. But at the same time, there have been problems that I've had with things, emotional stuff, love stuff, married stuff. And I've been through the trenches like you. I'll be 60 very soon. So I've seen life. And that's why if I was to go back, that would be something I'd say. Ask yourself a lot of questions before you come to that conclusion. Because guess what? Those people, sometimes, but not everybody, those people that say, oh, don't do this, oh, just leave them, they'll be the same people who, when you need food to feed your children, you need support, they will shun you. So I'm looking at the bigger picture of the wellness of the mother, of the woman. But psychologically, tough. It's tough. Yeah.
This topic is brought back. We've been brought back to this topic we were avoiding.
Yeah, it's tough to go through that, but
we're not going the fidelity way. But what she said is very interesting, because if I would go back to my 20-year-old self, I would say leave him if he is, if it's infidelity. However, my thing is to say to myself that you have to plan it. You have to know what you're going to do, and don't listen to anyone's advice. It has to be for you. Now, luckily for me, I'm not very good with that. It's now that I'm growing older and I'm about to be 60 and I'm about to, that I am listening to advice. I listen very seriously, but in my youth, the only people who could advise me were my parents and my grandma. Yeah. I don't listen to my friends. My friends were the most dangerous people on earth, and you weren't really sure who was actually genuine or not. And at a certain time, people do things, or people would say, do this or that, and in the end, but they wouldn't do it. You'll find 5 years down the line they wouldn't have done it. And there are things people advised me to do when I was younger, which I didn't do, and I am so grateful for it. Now, one of the reasons why I have some of you as my friends, and I've held on very fast to some of I have friends like Lily, Constance, and all sorts of friends, are the ones who would, let's think about it. I prefer that, I've had moments when I've been on Lily, and she just sits there and listens, and hey, it's like, I don't know what to do, and she doesn't know what to do, and let's think about it. I have held on to those friendships because I didn't do what the general crowd was saying, and it has been good for me.
But do you know why? There's a saying, in terms of not listening to anybody, there's a saying that only you know how long you can lie on your bed of nails.
Yes.
And we must remember that. Only you know how long you can lie on your bed of nails.
Excellent. So only you know what is pinching you. And only you know.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
if there's a bed of nails, your weight is different from my weight.
Indeed. Indeed.
The amount of pain that you can take is different from the amount of pain that I can take.
Oh,
Yeah. There is a lot of people who perish in terms of lots of medical conditions as they're lying on their bed of nails that comes through our clinics based on this. And so we found out that we human beings all across are 85% identical in terms of how we are built, who we are, and 15% culture perhaps is different. And identical includes the mindset within the brain. So I just had to say that disclaimer.
yeah, well, thank you. Thank you. We're learning a lot from this show, and I'm very grateful that the two of you, because this is how it should be. We should learn from each other. This is a show for women by women, etc., etc. And we're learning. Are you reading the screen? Because someone says your guest Lillian is very practical. Kudos to you, Lily.
Oh, thank you, Miss Constance.
And then someone is saying, I'm enjoying the discussion. Thank you, ladies.
Hey, Francis.
And then someone is going to be bringing gin and tonic and brandy to be consumed after the show.
To be honest, that's Uncle Patrick.
Uncle Patrick is watching. Lily, a lot of people love what you're saying. It's practical. Some people are loving what Brenya is saying. Anna Grant is very seriously at the heels of Brenya, saying she's with her and everything. She's saying she's agreeing.
Well,
and Eva Miranda is saying, and I'm going to put it up, she says, it's always very hard to make the right decision when you are in a broken relationship. But once you make it, it's the beginning of a new life.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes.
Once you make it, it's a beginning of a new life. And I think that is it. This is so important. It is so important.
The new life needs
there's always light at the end of the tunnel.
The new life needs a lot of support. The new life needs a lot of support. So the definition of new life, we as women and educated women, we hold hands in knowing that there's a lot to the definition of new life. It's not just poetry. And sorry for sounding cynical here, but the work we've done with thousands of human beings, it speaks for itself across cultures, from Burma to Pakistan to Somalia, all the way to Germany. So we are mindful to support people with knowledge, and we have fun doing it. It's our service.
I agree with you. The word support is so important. I remember that when I had some friends, a pack of friends, and I was, at the time that I was divorcing my husband, my mother died. I'm telling you, this is my deepest, saddest situation in my life. My mother died just when I had made that decision, and we had planned all sorts of things, and she was saying, come to Ghana and we'll sort things out. I bought the ticket. I was so excited. She died. I did not get to Ghana. And at the time, I had some friends. Can you believe that those friends are not my friends anymore? Now I went through hell by myself. I mean, of course, Lily was there and a few other ladies who I may not mention, but they were there. But the actual friends I used to go about with, who I was here, they were not there for me. And I went through hell. But the hell that I went through was necessary, because it built me, it strengthened me, it opened avenues for me that I could go through without anyone in my ear or anyone stopping me. I could act on my own decisions. If I got to the point where I couldn't, of course I had Lily at the time, and but I could act and I could decide on things and do them. And here I am.
Lovely.
And every day I wake up and I say, thank you, God. I am so grateful. I say sometimes that I am so happy and I don't know why.
The joy of the Lord.
Yes.
Okay.
And the suffering that I went through, it is not because of the divorce. It was because my mother wasn't there at the time. This is the time I needed her, and I was in debt, and I went through practical, physical, and emotional help.
Yeah.
And I came out. Here I am. You see me.
We celebrate.
Stronger and better.
We celebrate.
So I advise everyone that there comes a time in your life where if I would go back to my 20-year-old, I will say there will come a time when you have to think on your own. You have to make your own decision. You have to look at yourself and say, what do I want? And when some of the decisions you will make are going to be so terrible, but you will come through, because here I am.
Here we are. I think both of us were young, very young mothers as well.
Yes,
and that in itself is one of the greatest teachings that one can have. At 18, I didn't know what I was doing. Again, I had my mom, a role model, but I had to learn very quickly as to how to survive on my wits alone.
Yeah.
How to duck and dive. And of course, your friends and your friends' parents and all that start to shun you because of. Yeah. But my mom said to me, Lily, the only person you have to, even my dad, my dad could have killed me and killed the man as well. But my mom is strong. She is always determined to stand by you no matter what. And she stood by me and said, we're going to do this. The only person you have to worry about is me. And we're going to do this.
It's lovely.
And because of that decision that my mom helped me with, now I have a boy that will be 40 in November.
Yay! Congrats.
He'll be 40 in November, and he's got his own children. Mm-hmm. And if I had listened to my friends, he would have ended up in Kolebu Lake somewhere.
Yeah, if we listen to our friend, Lily.
He's here today because I listened to my mom. And that's why I have learned to grow up very quickly and learn to do things that are not the right path for people to go. But I've come full circle.
Indeed.
And I've managed to survive and be successful and do things that those who manage to, life is a journey. You don't have to get everything right first traffic lights. It's about going through those traffic lights and making turns, getting lost and coming back. That has helped us become, who we are. So yes, both of us were young moms, and we've managed to survive and be badass girls.
Yes, and we're so happy. Anyway, I thank you so much. I need to thank you, but before I say bye-bye, I will tell you I spoke to 3 people, and I said, what would you tell yourself? Because I'm very interested to know what people will tell themselves. And I'm going to have this question every time I have a show, which is going to be next week, the week after, and all. So anyone who wants to tell me what they want to tell themselves, just let me know. Come and let's do it. But someone says, be there for a friend's relationship crisis, but do not give advice. That is so important. Thank you. But 3 people said, the first person said, you are never too old to learn new things. Be a lifelong learner. So never too old learn new things. Never say, oh, I can't do it, I'm old now, blah, blah, blah. No, don't do that. Now, someone else says, don't mix booze on the same night. So stop mixing booze. So don't mix gin and then have brandy and then, blah, blah, blah. I don't know why he said that, but I suppose it's good advice. So, yeah, don't mix booze. And then my advice is, apart from you will be on your own, you have to make singular decisions. My other one is be true to yourself. Be true to yourself. So, here we are. We have I'll tell you what, my birthday is next month.
Yay!
My birthday is next month. I have to go in a minute. My birthday is next month, and I can't have a party because we're in lockdown, and I've been on, I don't know, shielding, etc., etc. And I had great plans of having one big bash, and I had all these things planned from last year, believe it or not. And I can't do it, and truthfully, I always say birthdays are times for reflection. By the time my birthday appears, I don't reflect. I am so happy, so excited, but it looks like this year I am forced to reflect, and it's a big birthday as well. So people, I am on a kind of a journey to my birthday. I am trying to be good. I am trying to be true to myself. I'm grateful. I'm so grateful. So many things have happened to me that I should be dead by now. I'm not. So many things have happened to me. I should maybe be in some negative, I don't know. I'm not. So I am grateful. And I'm on that grateful journey at the moment. So I want to say thank you. Thank you for being on this show. Thank you for coming to speak your truth. Thank you for even allowing people to disagree or agree or whatever. Thank you, all the listeners. I am so grateful that you listened. You will, I don't know, maybe learn something from the show. Thank you very much for today.
Thank you, Candy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lily.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Be well.
Bye.
Bye. People, I want to thank you for sharing this evening, your hour and a half with me. Thank you so much. I have to go now, but I have enjoyed this show today, and I hope you have too. Bye-bye. Be well.